I can't tell you how many people I talk to that will tell me a bit about a problem they have with their dog. And then when I give them a solution for it, they go, oh, well, I couldn't do that. Welcome to episode 31 of the Pawdoption Guide podcast. I'm your host, Bethany Muir, and this is your one-stop shop for the knowledge and advice you need to adopt and integrate the rescue dog of your dreams. Again, it feels like it's been a little while, but I am enjoying this summer weather, and I'm sure you are too. If you're in Ontario, you're just loving this up because we only get so much of it in a year. But, enjoying this lovely weather just in the last week or so, I was taking my dog for a walk. And if you've listened to this podcast before, you will have heard that I have two dogs. And once I got the second dog, we started dealing with some leash reactivity. And of course, we manage it pretty well now. But it's always something that's just in the back of our mind and that we pay attention to and we're very observant about and always prepared on our walks to deal with. So went on our walk as usual up our road and got to the end of our street, which is like a dead end street. And we're just about to turn back around and come home when a little French bulldog runs right across the road to us. And he's not being aggressive. He just looks excited to see us. I really didn't see exactly where he came from just because it was so sudden. Anyways, he runs right up to us, but stops about 2 meters ahead of us. And I'm on edge because I know that my dog is not going to appreciate having a dog run up to him off leash. So immediately I'm fixated watching the dog this whole time. And I can see, I've seen this dog before. I know its owner, as an acquaintance on our street. And I'm kind of just immediately yelling, my dog's not good with other dogs. My dog might bite your dog. Get your dog. Just saying that over and over again. My dog's not good with other dogs. And I've got Geller on a really short leash at that point. And he's actually being quite good. Often he might get vocal, start whining a bit if we're not, continuing to move past that distraction. And I couldn't move because the dog was ahead of us. So there wasn't really any way around this. And I thought, we're just going to, if we start moving, the dog's just going to come up to us, right up to us. And at least at this moment, it's not right under us. Well, the owner was, he's a senior. He's probably in his 70s. He didn't seem all that concerned or acting all too quickly. But again, my eyes were solely on this dog. And I was using my feet to keep the dog at a distance from my dog. And I was pretty much holding up on my dog's collar the entire time with the leash just to make sure that Geller wouldn't have an opportunity to lunge forward and bite the dog because there's a size difference between my dog and this dog. Okay, I have a large dog and this dog is a small dog, and my dog could do a lot of damage if he chooses to defend himself and bite this dog, and I don't want that on my hands. So anyways, this all going down, feels like it's taking forever for this man to get his dog. And in the meantime, the dog has come up to my dog, gone under my dog, in and around, and he just wants to play or really get in his space, but it's turning more invasive, obviously, now that the dog's right in and around and under my dog. And now my dog is much more offended. So eventually Geller does grab this dog for a little bit. And at that point, I'm just trying to pull that dog's collar away from my dog. Geller had let go. And I'm just trying to kick it away. All this to say, in the end, I'm the one who gets the collar of the dog instead of the owner. He didn't even get his dog's own collar. I get the dog, I give him to the owner, and we kind of settle where we are, and I let the guy walk away. And I was just shocked that Geller did as well as he did. He didn't make a lot of noise. He didn't bark, even though this dog was barking incessantly at him. And, I unfortunately felt terrible because I had the leash really tight on him the whole time, because I just didn't want him to have the ability to lunge at the dog and really do any bad damage. But needless to say, that was a very stressful situation for me. I have been thinking the last few weeks about how well we manage our dog's leash reactivity, and how it's something we think about every time we go for a walk. So it's always on our minds, and we're always trying to be very prepared for anything. But there's not a lot you can do when a dog comes running off leash at you, and you're kind of at the mercy of that scenario, and it just feels like it kind of takes you back a few lessons for your dog, because you put all this effort into making them have positive experiences on leash, and then something like that happens, and you think, okay, well, do they feel like they can trust what will happen when they're on a leash now, because something like this has occurred, right? So it feels like it just takes you back and really reverses some of the work you've done. So it was very frustrating for that to occur, and it makes me question, how much I can walk our dog on our street now, because since COVID happened, we've had a lot more dogs come to our street and come to be inhabitants of this neighborhood. And I'm all for dogs. I love dogs. And I'm not sad that we have a lot of dogs on our street. I think that's a great thing. But I have seen many times that there'll be dogs off leash, especially at the other end of the street. A few of the people down there got new dogs during COVID, and it was a bit of a block party. It was like, oh, I got a puppy too, and you got a puppy. And then so there was a lot of excessive socializing happening, and like people just hanging out in their front yards, letting their dog run across the road to go visit someone else. And it's a bit of a free-for-all at times. And so, yeah, because we're observant, we often can foresee what's happening there and kind of maybe avoid that or whatever. But it seems so silly. It seems like this is not necessarily safe for them. This dog that had come up to us, the owner never tried calling it by its name. And I believe it probably had absolutely no recall. So that might be why he never even tried to call it, right? Maybe he thought it would think it was a game if he was running after the dog, so he didn't run after it. But then your dog should have had no access to get away like that, right? So all of this to say, I just felt like it was another observation that I made of how some of us dog owners are failing our dogs a bit right now. And I'm sure you've heard of all the overrun shelters and dog rescues right now. There's been so many surrenders especially from COVID dog owners that, they're just overwhelmed, and a lot less people taking on dogs. So, it does have you wonder, okay, why so many people giving up their dogs at this time? And of course, there's always scenarios we can't foresee, like people losing jobs or, just strange things occurring where, they gotta move and they literally can't take their dog with them. Those things happen occasionally, but why are we seeing such an overwhelming amount of these dogs being surrendered? You have to question that. So I really thought, let's look at how we can prevent some of these scenarios from occurring, and kind of talk to either those first-time dog owners or just all dog owners in general about how we can be better dog owners. What are some of these things that we're seeing trending right now with dog ownership that is different than previous dog ownership. And I feel like a huge change has happened since COVID. And, COVID just kind of laid the groundwork for everyone and anyone to become a dog owner. It was so boring. People wanted companionship when they were so isolated. So lots of people got dogs when they might not have even thought about owning a dog before. And a lot of those people had never owned a dog before because, usually you have the experience of owning a dog, you love it, and you're just like a dog owner for life after that. Even if it's your family dog, then you're like, I'm going to own a dog someday, right? But a lot of these people haven't owned dogs, so they don't have that past experience to dwell on or to have better understanding as to what they should be doing to cultivate a healthy dog owner bond. So I'm going to talk a bit about some of those observations, especially about COVID dog owners, and how we can turn things around so that we can make sure that we're being responsible dog owners and that our dogs are staying in their forever homes, just where they should be. So 5 ways we can be better dog owners. 1 would be setting a good foundation. I think it's really easy, and especially during COVID times, it was so easy to get caught up in the excitement of getting a dog. And it was really trending, let's just say. It was the happening thing. That's what everyone was doing. So, oh my gosh, I'm going to do that too. And so you think about all the excitement of getting it and not so much about what are you going to do once you have it. And the truth is setting a good foundation, understanding the importance of the basics for your dog. So the basics like having a good recall on your dog. I'll be the first to say my dogs don't have a great recall. And, they were both rescue dogs, and I found myself kind of dealing more with the problems as they were arising and dealing with one issue after another. And we just didn't find time to focus on recall. And only more recently have we kind of been doing that. But because they didn't have recall, they had absolutely no access to being off leash. Okay? There was a time where they went to the dog park only briefly, and that was when my one dog, he did have decent recall. But when we had 2 of them and they didn't do so well at the dog park, or the other one didn't have recall, we just no off-leash activity at that point, okay? Except for in a fenced backyard where they're safe and there's no way they're getting out. So that's where, you have to decide what is your dog's lifestyle going to be in. Is that something your dog will need in the lifestyle you plan to lead? So if that is, then you make sure that you're implementing that, right? You're teaching your dog proper recall. You can't just expect them to hear their name and come. Place command. This is like the pinnacle of foundations for your dog. So having your dog be able to go to a place to calm, to settle, or just stay, be safe in any scenario is so great. So, if you have kids running around and you just go, the dog needs to get out of the space to be able to not be trampled on, to be safe, and to not have to worry about how your dog's going to react about the kids screaming and yelling. You can send them to their crate. You can send them to if they have a room or a bed or a couch or just a bed on the floor. Send them there. Teach them a place command, teach them how to stay, and teach them that you will release them off that place when they're allowed. So always have a release so that it's not just like, oh, well, whenever the dog feels like it, they leave the place. So place command, so key in that foundation. And then one of the things I've really noticed with a lot of COVID dog owners is attentive leash walking. There's a lack of importance placed on leash walking. So just because your dog walks on a leash beside you doesn't mean you have an attentive dog, or doesn't mean that you have control of your dog. And to have a a well-balanced relationship with your dog, your walks should be enjoyable, and you should be in control on your walks. So that means your dog not leading you, the full length of your leash ahead of you, which I see so much nowadays, but having your dog at your side and walking right alongside you, checking in with you. They're giving you eye contact on your walk, and you're able to gain their attention as needed, or deal with distractions as needed. So attentive leash walking, that's not just for the lucky. That is something that everyone should be able to obtain from their dog. And certainly some dogs, it'll take way longer to get them attentive on leash, but you don't stop trying to achieve that. And even with my dog Rory right now, I'm taking the 10-day relationship reboot with Liz Foley of Honest to Dog podcast. And I'm excited about it because I'm hoping to get more attention from my dog when we're walking on leash, because Geller is pretty great, but Rory has always been a bit of a struggle, and we've done so many things, but I'm still yearning for even more. She's good, and I'm happy with where she's at, but I think we can get more. So I never stop trying to get her to be really successful on leash, and that's what I want you to aim for too. And then another, foundational thing that's a necessity is appropriate socializing. So I think a lot of people think socializing your dog overall is just key. Just expose them again and again and again. So yeah, when there was tons of COVID puppies, lots of dogs maybe were mingling with other dogs in the yards, in the front yards or whatever. And but that's not really appropriate socializing. It's not just about exposure. It's kind of about structured exposure. So teaching them manners, well-mannered socializing. So your dog can be around other dogs without just getting hyper and excited and thinking it's always playtime when I see another dog. And I'm pretty sure that's what this little Frenchie thought when we walked by was, it's playtime. I see another dog and I can run right up to it, right? And sure, if it's never known a dog that is leash reactive, they might think that, but it's up to you to make sure they don't have that need to fulfill that play mode, right? Like seeing other dogs does not equal play. So they need to have experiences where they see other dogs and they do not get to play. They do not get to greet. They just have to keep calm and carry on. That's exactly what appropriate socializing is. So they can get some of every experience. They get to play with other dogs, but they also get to be calm around other dogs. And they know that it's not always one way or another. And they have a bit more of a holistic approach to what being social is. And being social also means just having manners when around other dogs. So not just running up, jumping on a dog and demanding it play, but maybe walking by the dog without getting reactive or getting excitable, right? Being able to be calm in the existence of other dogs. So not just a free-for-all or for excessive socialization or extensive exposure to other dogs. We need controlled exposure to teach them that there's going to be multiple different ways to socialize with dogs, and you should always be well-mannered and composed when you're in that scenario. Number 2 is be more flexible. So I can't tell you how many people I talk to that will tell me a bit about a problem they have with their dog, and then when I give them a solution for it, they go, oh, well, I couldn't do that. And usually it's just about them not wanting to be flexible with how they live or how they proceed in a day or how they walk their dog or how their house is set up. So, if, for instance, your dog likes to bark at people walking by the window, well, maybe a solution is to not have them have access to that window. So whether that means they're in a crate in another area, or that window was frosted so they can't see through it, or the curtains are closed, that is one way to reduce a bad behavior when you're not able to, immediately pull a leash and get your dog focused elsewhere, right? If you're not around, but they're still barking out the window, they're still learning that behavior, right? So environmental management can be huge in helping reduce issues with our dogs and stop bad habits from forming. But a lot of people just go, well, like, I want to have the window shades open, or I want to have the front door open for a breeze or whatever. Well, when you have a dog and you start to see things arising, there are ways to manage those things, and sometimes it's environmental management. And if you're not willing to do those things, then you're going to have to work extra hard or always be around to divert your dog's attention in those instances, because you can't expect your dog to just be perfect, right? Your dog will need that flexibility from you. So, even I had someone who said that they didn't like to cross the road on their walk if another dog was coming. Well, if your dog is reactive to other dogs, this is a need from your dog, that they need you to give them more space in order to help lessen that behavior, to help them feel more safe, feel less defensive when they're walking. Just by crossing the road, you can reduce a lot of reactivity. But if you just always want to walk on one side of the road, well, you're really not being very flexible for this dog who has its own needs. Number 3, another way we can be better dog owners is by being solution-oriented. So not just problem-oriented. As I kind of mentioned before, if you get a rescue dog like I did, it can be especially easy to kind of get caught up and focusing on addressing issues or dealing with reversing bad habits. But it's even more helpful than just dealing with the problems as they're arising is to have that foundation where you have that great place command and you have calm, assertive leadership with your dog that is shown through your leash walking and through your following through with commands, through calm attention that you're giving them. All those things really set you up for being able to manage issues as they arise and helps reduce those issues from arising. So I think that when I first got my dogs, I really was like, deal with the problem. And then I didn't feel like I was getting like that foundation of obedience training that some people do get, especially when they have puppies, because usually they're just kind of encouraging good behavior right from the get-go. Whereas sometimes if you're just trying to reverse that bad behavior, you get caught in a bit of a cycle. So it can be so helpful to just go to the basics, go to the foundation, work on positive reinforcement with the good behaviors and creating more good behaviors so less bad behaviors can occur. And even using environmental management to reduce problem behaviors like barking and leash reactivity can be really helpful there. So try to think more about how can we holistically help this dog in being a happier dog and a less reactive dog, or just more content, rather than dealing with every little problem as they arise and trying to, say your dog's barking at something, and just going, no, Rory, don't bark, stop barking, right? Like, it's easy to think, oh, I'll just yell at them, I'll just pull on their leash, and I'm just dealing with the problem that way in the moment. But it's not actually going to help in the long run to reduce those problems from arising. We got to get down to, why are they more reactive with you? Is it you not being a calm leader with them and not having their respect because you don't follow through with commands, you don't follow through with making them sit after you said it once? Do you have to say things, 5 times before they actually listen? Those are little things, but they mean a lot, right? Your dog's not listening to you. So how can we get our dog to be more focused on what we're teaching them? Number 4 is be less selfish. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but it's a little true. Like, we are so selfish in today's day and age. And I think getting all these dogs during COVID was, somewhat of a selfish act. It wasn't so much about saving them and giving them the home they needed. It was more about, we are so bored. We need affection and love right now. That's what we're craving. So let's give that to ourselves. And, some of these people who have had to surrender their dogs were selfish in thinking that they had this need that they needed to fill, but they then learned that they didn't have the appropriate time for this dog or the appropriate resources to care for this dog, and then had to give up that dog. So we need to think equally about our dog's needs as we do our own. So if I'm not going to be around for the weekend and my dog's used to me being there all day, then I need to come up with a plan for how my dog is going to have its exercise that day, right before I go and right when I get home. How is it going to be fed that day to keep its routine good, as well as how is it going to get any mental stimulation? Am I going to leave it with some Kong puzzles? Is someone going to stop in for a walk midday? Is someone going to give it some attention in the middle of the day? What am I going to do to make sure their needs are met despite what my needs are that day? Also, being less selfish, thinking about other people, other dog owners. Not everyone, despite what COVID has made us think, are dog people. Especially, some younger kids, some adults, they don't want to be approached by a dog off leash when they're on a trail walk. They deserve just as much as any dog owner deserves to be able to go on that trail. So have your dog on leash. And if you're going to have them off leash, have that in a designated off leash area, or have a fantastic recall so your dog is going to listen to you, and despite any distractions, right? You can't just practice it at home in your house and expect that does the job. It needs to happen in your backyard, then it needs to happen in your front yard, then it needs to happen on walks, and it has to happen in different locations. You have to really make sure that recall is secure before you're trying to use it in those scenarios. And also think that not all dogs are social or want to interact with your dog. It is not a free-for-all for socializing. So start assuming that your dog is not welcome unless someone says otherwise. Okay, that's where this whole off-leash scenario could have been much better, is if people started thinking, my dog just can't run out in the front yard. Who knows who might be out there walking around, and who knows if that dog's comfortable with my dog. We can't just think about ourselves and what we want. We have to think about what's best for the neighborhood, what's best for your neighbor, what's best for your dog and other dogs, as well as other people. There are lots of people who deal with anxiety over having had a dog attack or fear of dogs, and they have a right to not be approached by off-leash dogs, or even approached by on-leash dogs. Just because your dog's on a leash doesn't mean people don't let their dogs kind of run right up to some people, right? And that's not okay. No one should have to have a dog come into their space if they don't feel comfortable with that. So be more cognizant of that, people. That's really, really huge, and will help those people maybe become dog people one day. And lastly, number 5 is be resourceful. Don't be naive when it comes to getting a dog, okay? I feel like a lot of that happened during COVID because it was about like, how fast could I get a dog? And there was so much competition that it just came down to like, I'll take whatever I can get, right? But you need to do your homework and use the resources at your disposal. Like the library is a fantastic one. I've taken many dog training books out at the library. There's also just books that are just about dog breeds, so you can have an understanding as to what dogs might suit your lifestyle and what dogs might not, and what challenges may lay ahead. Like, where are they going to be more difficult as a dog to own? Do they have a lot of health issues, like an English bulldog, or do they Are they just stubborn like an English bulldog, right? Or are they a beagle and they're stubborn, but, very good with families and generally a good family pet? But they're going to be nose to the ground on their walks, right? So, those are the things to pay attention to. And even if you're getting a rescue dog, you often you can tell what mixes are kind of in dogs. So you can at least assess, they're probably going to have some of these traits and some of these traits. Is that going to suit us? If you're getting a husky, can I handle all the shedding? Can I handle how hyper this dog is? This dog may be vocal. It also may be really hot in the summer. So if we like to be outside all summer long, is this dog going to be able to be with us all the time? Is this a good fit? Think about that, right? We can't just hope it all works out. Even when we're getting a rescue dog, think about the different traits of that dog and the lifestyle it needs and whether that suits you. And ask, not just by borrowing a book, but also by, researching at your vet about what breeds they might suggest for your lifestyle, or if you have dog owning friends, check out their dogs. What dogs do you like the most, and do those dogs suit your needs, right? Think about your favorite characteristics, and are those characteristics commonly in that breed, right? It can be so helpful to have done that research so that you're not going to have to make so that you don't make a mistake and have to return that dog in the end. One thing, so many hypoallergenic dogs are out there right now, and it drives me a little nuts because I know that that's not really great for the gene pool, right? That we're getting so many hypoallergenic mixes, but they all, come from the poodle, right? So we're kind of overbreeding the poodle right now into everything. And if the poodles don't have fantastic bloodlines and have some things like epilepsy or hip issues, and we're breeding those things into these dogs, then, we're just creating more unwell dogs in general, right? We're creating a bad gene pool of which more dogs are being bred from. So it's just one thing to think about is that, but then also the fact that hypoallergenic dogs have high grooming needs. So that can mean they're more costly to own because they need to go to a groomer every 1.5 to 3 months for life. And, do you have a plan for that? Do you plan on buying your own clippers and learning how to clip this dog on a regular basis so you can lower your costs? Or is that not something you're ever going to do? And, you're always going to take them to groomer. Can you pay for that? Can you handle paying for that for the life of that pet? Will you even just be able to keep up with having to have an appointment so regularly for your pet, right? Lots of people can't even make time for their own dentist and doctor appointments. Can you make time for your dog to have a grooming appointment every, 2 to 3 months? That's something you need to think about. So it's not just, oh, it's great, this dog's so low shedding, it's going to be wonderful because I'll have less cleanup to do on a regular basis in my household. That suits me. Well, do those other needs suit you? Because that is something you're taking on for life. And can you afford the cost of that? Because it's not inexpensive to have your dog groomed on a regular schedule like that. So those are the 5 ways we can be better dog owners, and I'm really talking to those people who became dog owners during COVID and maybe are experiencing dog ownership for the first time. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement and the hype of it all, but then kind of reality hits and you're starting to deal with issues and it becomes kind of overwhelming. This is where, if we can focus on some of these things, understanding you do have to be a bit flexible as a dog owner. You do have to think more about your dog now and make sure that you're thinking about them equally as you're thinking about your needs, right? Because no one else is going to think about their needs other than you. That's your responsibility now. Be resourceful. When you're having issues, reach out to experts like your vet, a dog trainer, even a dog owner, people who are long-standing dog owners, ask those people about their knowledge in regards to your issues that you're having, and then go from there. Even reaching out to the rescue or shelter your dog came from is a great place to start. They can help. They have lots of advice and recommendations to make. Please don't rely on sometimes the dog breeder. If it's not a credible dog breeder, you're not likely to get a lot of help or wisdom from them. And don't, rely on the pet store sales associate. They do not have much to share in regards to nutrition. I would be reaching out to your vet in that instance for appropriate nutritional information. And if you're struggling with things like what type of dog to adopt, or dog walking, or even puppy raising, I've got quite a few helpful tools that are free, absolutely free, on my website. And you can grab them today via the link in the show notes or at www.pawdoptionguide.com/helpful tools. If you enjoyed this episode, take a screenshot, share it to your Instagram story or Facebook story. If you really found like one of these points was key for you and you just thought it hit home with your thoughts on current dog ownership trends and that, then share that in your Instagram story. I love to hear what snippets you like most, and you can let me know by tagging me at Pawdoption Guide. New episodes are uploaded bi-weekly on Thursday, and if you want to hear more episodes like this, please be sure to leave me a review or a star rating on your podcast app. It makes a huge impact on this podcast. Thank you for listening, as always.